Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to tackle a really profound question, but from a pretty unique angle, pure logic. We're diving deep into a classic theological commentary that tries to prove the oneness of a creator, but not just by asking for faith. Nope, it attempts to build a rigorous, step-by-step, rational argument. So let's see how it's built. So this is the big question our source text is really wrestling with. But check out the framing. It's not asking, do you believe this? It's asking, is it logical? See, the text isn't just looking for a nod of agreement. It's demanding a rational proof, and it's pretty confident it's got one. Okay, so the text we're digging into, a commentary on the Qur'an, Surah Ar-Raʿd, starts by building its case from the absolute ground up. And it doesn't lead with a declaration of faith. It leads with an appeal to reason. The whole framework of the argument is kind of like an invitation, right? It's saying, hey, if we just accept the premise of a creator, what conclusions are we logically forced to accept? It's a whole chain of reasoning, so let's go ahead and examine the very first link in that chain. All right, the entire argument really kicks off by drawing a massive, uncrossable line in the sand. It establishes this one non-negotiable distinction, the absolute separation between the creator on one side and, well, everything else that is created on the other. And this right here, this little phrase from the Qur'an, creator of all things, this is basically the starting point, the first axiom of the entire proof. The whole logical weight of the argument rests on that one super important, all-encompassing word, all. It's totally absolute. It leaves zero room for any exceptions. And this is where you can really see the method in action. The source text takes that foundational phrase and just starts unpacking its logical implications, one by one. So let's trace that logic, shall we? Okay, so this is the absolute core of the logical deduction. Let's break it down like a formal syllogism, just to be super clear. Premise 1. The creator is the creator of, you guessed it, all things. Premise 2. Any hypothetical partner, well, it would have to be a thing, right? And the conclusion? Therefore, that partner must, by definition, be part of the created world. It's like a perfectly closed loop. A partner can't be the creator because it automatically falls into the category of created. So, with that first proof locked in, the argument starts to add another layer. It shifts gears a little bit, moving from the definition of creation to the actual nature of power and control in the universe. So the text really doubles down on its argument by analyzing specific divine attributes from Scripture. A name like Al-Wahid Al-Qahhar, which means the one, the prevailing, isn't treated as just some title. No, it's used as a logical premise. It's defining the very nature of ultimate authority as something singular and completely unopposed. And here's the heart of this second proof. The text basically says that the orderly, coherent universe we see around us is in itself evidence. I mean, think about it for a second. If you had multiple co-equal ultimate powers, logically, you'd expect conflict, right? You'd expect chaos. For a coherent system like our universe to even exist, one authority has to ultimately prevail. And once again, when we look at the source text, we see this isn't just them making a claim. The commentator gets into a deep linguistic analysis, using the very meaning baked into these divine names as evidence for a single, prevailing, and totally unopposed power. Now, any really strong logical argument doesn't just build up its own case, it also has to dismantle the alternatives. So now the text turns that same rational lens directly onto the whole concept of polytheism. The commentary throws down a direct, rational challenge. It's asking, look, if these other so-called deities are themselves created beings, and according to that first proof, they have to be, then why would you appeal to them? It's really questioning the logic of seeking help from entities that are, by definition, dependent and totally powerless to create anything on their own. Yeah, the contrast becomes incredibly stark when you lay it out like this, side by side. On one side, you've got the attributes of the creator, self-sufficient, all-powerful, and on the other, the attributes of any supposed partner, created, dependent, and, at the end of the day, completely powerless. The text is making the point that this is a fundamental categorical difference. It's not just a matter of degree. So, after all that, where do all these different lines of reasoning actually lead? The arguments from creation, the arguments from power, and the arguments from the weakness of any alternatives, well, they all converge on one single unifying principle. And this concept, Tawheed, it's presented as the ultimate conclusion of all the rational proofs we've just walked through. It's the final destination of this whole logical journey. And this is the ultimate claim. The commentary doesn't present this core belief as some kind of paradox or mystery you just have to accept on faith. Instead, it argues that Tawheed, this idea of absolute oneness, is the most rational and really the only logical explanation for a coherent reality. And this, at the end of the day, is the big takeaway from our analysis. The whole point of this commentary's argument is to show this fusion of logical inquiry with theological doctrine. It's making the case that in this particular worldview, reason and revelation aren't enemies at all. They're just two different paths leading to the very same truth. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. After seeing how this classical text builds its case, piece by logical piece, we're kind of left to ask ourselves, in our own lives, how do we balance the demands of pure reason with the convictions of faith? And where, if at all, do those two things meet?